All right, welcome in everybody to the Big Matt Podcast. We got another big story to share for you here from The Chosen. It's, of course, season 4. This is from episode 5. Man, what a heartbreaker we had at the end of 4. What an event of Christ dealing with the weight of the world and feeling the anguish and agony that his own disciples and people from ever after are going to have to deal with. You know? So for this part, we're going to bring in here these topics, and topics are including today of the bride of Christ. We got two of the rabbis here speaking about something that I picked up. I don't know if anybody else got this, and maybe it means nothing, but I just picked up to my eye. Weaning their hearts, greed of the Jews, and we all have a part. And the uncertainty of poverty is another something that I picked up on. Just a small line, just a few words. I'd like to expand on a little bit. And of course, human feelings, something we've talked about also in the last episode.
The latest dispute. Whether you should tell a bride on her wedding day that she is beautiful, even if it is not true.
I'm guessing Shammai says no, because it would be a lie.
Correct, and Hillel maintains that a bride is always beautiful on her wedding day.
A bigger story of God and his people.
Well, be careful when you say that around.
A bigger story about God and his people. What is he talking about? Matt, I think you're crazy. What are you talking about? Well, we all know the bride of Christ, and we all know that he's going to meet his bride in there. And the church, us, his people. But what's interesting there, that what caught my ear was how he said, you tell the brides they're beautiful every day. The bride, and meaning Christ, I don't know if the writers put this in for that reason or not, but we need to be thankful every day that Christ was the bride that gives us an opportunity to have an ever after life, to be with the Spirit. So is it just something that Christ is just here just to come once a day, that we need to worship him? Nope. You need to do it every day. I think that's what I got out of it. Okay. Everybody has their own. So let's get over here to the second clip, and we're going to talk about winning the hearts of the lost from Matthew 5:41. He's talking about that. You could walk a mile, walk 2 miles.
I said stop!
The destination is that outpost a mile ahead, yes?
It is, but we're only permitted 1 mile.
By coercion. There's no law against citizens assisting you the rest of the way of their own volition. Come, my friends.
But
if anyone says anything, say that we offered.
Wow. What about that? Probably the hardest part of, the challenge of being who we are and what we try to be every day, and being Christians and followers of Christ is to be Christ-like. I mean, I think that's the whole definition of Christian, right? To be Christ-like. Okay. So even in times when we're being pushed around and lied to and perceived to not be doing the right thing, perceived to be pushy, Bible thumpers, keepers of his rules and laws and not man's, and not recognizing particular months because they're recognized by man, what do you do? Well, first you pray for them and you try to be a witness, and soulfully knowing that the team that you're playing for, that you're going out and fighting and working with, they've already won. So we're not fighting to win. And Christ is making that example right here. I'm going to win. But if I can win the hearts of these people merely by just a gesture, and just tell the people if they ask that we just done it out of goodness. And if you watch on there, and I'll put the link to the show down here in the bottom, if you have not seen any of these, check it out. It's a good watch. You just cannot get the idea that these guys are mocking them. And if you don't know anything about what's going on, you're totally new to this, that's okay too. We all have to start somewhere. And I'm glad that you clicked on this link to check out this reactions to episode 5. these Romans could stop the Jews on the side of the road and put their stuff on them and make them carry it for a mile. And they had markers along the road. And, once the mile was up, hey, stop, give us our stuff back. But what some of the other disciples found out was, even if after they were told to stop and they could, to give the stuff back, and instead of grumbling about it and throwing their stuff on the ground and saying, you know what, this is crap, I wouldn't carry this another inch. It's humiliating and it's degrading just to make fun of me and mock me just because of what I look like or how I worship. So Christ just decides, you know what, why don't we just carry it another mile? But what they learn is the humility of the soldiers. They start to take their, hey, this is kind of hot. I mean, we were maybe, let me take that hat off of you and they put it back on. Let me take that sword, that shield. Sorry, not sword. Let me take that shield back. And the troops start taking their stuff back away from the disciples and Jesus, just within a few feet of after walking past that mile. It's a good lesson in how we're to carry ourselves in those types of situations. It's a good lesson. And I am not preaching to nobody because I needed that just as much as anybody else. Now, the next part, we're going to talk about some of the rabbis and this other, whatever other Jewish religion part these other guys are. They're talking about Pilate, and he's crazy. He's been in trouble before. But if we can push our problem off, this, guy working on the Sabbath, this guy that's going to tear down the temple and rebuild it, out healing people, Son of Man, what? We need that problem gone, and we don't want to deal with it. So let's go over here and watch this little clip, and we'll talk about it, okay?
Appear, however improbable, that we now want the same thing as Pilate. Peace. Pilate wants peace, or at least Caesar does.
Emperor Tiberius Caesar Augustus is not fond of Pontius Pilate.
Exactly. Pilate's position as the procurator of Judea is on the line. He was reprimanded and warned when he sent out troops to kill Galileans while they were offering sacrifices in our temples, and then given a second warning for the aqueduct massacre. He was already too young and in over his head for this position. And now, he is officially on notice.
Then let's make something happen so we can get rid of him.
Short-sighted, Sebediah, as usual. I suppose we take advantage of his tenuous situation. Take care of some things we've been putting off.
Pay attention.
Such as?
That's for this governing body and its committees to decide. We could suggest to Pilate. A revolutionary leader is fomenting an overthrow for, say, removing the Roman votive shields from the palace.
He does not take kindly to bribery.
What are his other options?
Listen, hold your tongue. I have a seat. I will use my voice. Listen. I know what you need to do. I know you have things you want to achieve, but you're new. No one knows you. You'll be shouted down.
So, pretty much, they just want to make a deal with the devil. And you heard what Pilate had done, and you can go back and study about him and things that he had went through. I mean, it wasn't nothing for like roads, going into these Roman cities back in the day to have these poles with humans on them wrapped up with this. And they were torches, human torches. And it wasn't nothing for them to crucify people and hang them up on crosses all along the hillside. Just 100 people put up on crosses and crucified for whatever, thieves, murders, whatever they felt like, to do. And they felt so wronged by Jesus that they were ready to make a deal with Pilate to shoo this problem of Jesus along. And I'm bringing up this point to show you where we're at in the story and to show you the stubbornness and the greed for money and control and power, because that's what it's always been about. Follow the rules, shut your mouth, just do what you're told. And that gives backstory to what we talked about in episode 4 of the guys troops of the kingdom. You know, we want to be your left and right hand man. They don't have faith. They're still looking for something to be built. They're still looking for, you know, a throne. And it's about money, control, worldly things that all these foolish Gentiles follow. It's not really, well, I mean, basically they're no different than where the Jews were. Neither one are inheriting the kingdom of heaven because they can't see and they can't believe. The Gentiles are worshiping rocks, and the Jews are thinking that keeping these laws and toting these rocks around with them are going to get them somewhere. It gets them nothing. Okay? Nothing. Now, we'll set up this next part, and the disciples and Jesus have traveled. They're going to stay with Lazarus and Martha. And once they get in and get settled down, she's going to prepare some food for them. And Mary is just kind of sitting on the couch, enamored by Jesus and just, you know, listening to him tell stories and stuff. And Martha just kind of comes in and just dresses her down. I mean, just berates her with, you're not helping, you're not doing your part. Making sure the food is ready and those kind of things. But Jesus is going to give a parable and going to say, you know, what we do is all important for all of us. We all have things we should be doing. So hang on, let's hit that one.
It's truly necessary. The best way to serve me is to pay close attention to my words. That is the priority. That is what your sister has chosen. It is a good portion, and it will not be taken from her.
Taken?
The food, the servings, they are wonderful. But they'll pass away. But the rest of this world, my words, they'll never pass away. Mary has chosen to feast on something of eternal value. I want you all to hear this clearly. I do not rebuke Martha. Acts of service are beautiful. Action is good. You're doing what you thought was expected of you. And what you do is valuable. And Mary probably could have helped a little. But listen, I don't want you distracted from being able to be present with me and the friends that I have brought. I'm inviting you to something that is better. To sit at my feet, listen carefully to my words, and devour them as a meal more nourishing than actual food. That said, I definitely don't want to waste Martha's amazing food, so if you all got the lesson, let's all thank her and eat.
You know, where we're all at, and we're all in different areas in our faith and our maturity levels, and no matter where we are, however, does not, you know, set apart the idea that we all have something to give. Now, there's something that we can all give that's different, whether food and cooking, as Martha did, and maybe Mary wasn't a good cook, but there's something that we can all do, and it's free. It takes only your time, and that's listen. Listen when God's talking to you and these messages that you feel like you're getting when the Spirit is working with you. When you're doing your study, go into a room and shut yourself up. Give yourself, if it's just 30 minutes, start with 10, but we can all listen because we can all read and just read. Christ's words recorded there, it's great. And it's somewhere good to start. And it goes through all the good and the hard, and it's somewhere to start. But that's what we all have. We all do have something to give, and we all do have 2 ears. So which are you? Are you Mary or are you Martha? That's okay. We can be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm Martha. In my time in the church, working with the youth for years, and even cooking many Sunday mornings, It never felt like a task. It never felt as that I had to do it. I don't remember getting up any time and being at the grocery store when they opened to maybe buy some extra biscuits or something to take to church, turn the oven on and put them in if we didn't have none already there. Buy a flat of eggs, put them in a bowl, scramble them up, salt and pepper, throw it in the skillet, scramble eggs. I don't know. It never felt like I was, I had to do it. But I felt like it's something I should do. And when you are truly saved, you want to do those works. You're not saved by them. If you've been paying attention to any of this, Christ just told you we can't be like the Gentiles. This works or like the Jewish people, these laws and rules, they're good. You can follow those laws and rules, but they're not going to save you. But once you've made a real connection with Christ, you would want to do those things. Okay? So we all have a part, and it's wonderful. So if you're not sure about your part, I don't know, man, pray about it. Ask God to help show you where, your gifts, things that you can give, how does it all fit in, because we all do have something, but we can all listen. Okay? So let's listen to this next part. And I'll set this up. His mother, Mary, she comes in and she's going to wash his hair, and they're just having a conversation. And it kind of goes into something like, there's some funny little stuff like, her cleaning his face off with her thumb, I don't know if that's been a thing forever or not. I mean, I guess we've all done that with our kids. And she's just washing his hair and kind of catching up, and he's asking how it's been there and how, and then she's asking how are things going, with the group. And he kind of goes in on a lot about they're just so young-minded. Okay. They're so young-minded. And then he talks about something really important, how your father taught you how to work wood. And he names the cypress and the woods. It's like, he just didn't tell you about it. He put his hands on yours and would show you how to, sand and how to cut this wood down and how to, make dovetail, where you cut these grooves in the woods and you put them together. Makes the perfect way to put them together. Strong, not just glued together. That's important. And in their faith, the disciples, they need to be put together that way. And his mother, Mary, just says, well, you talk in parables and they're just human. If they don't get it, maybe you need to show them more and putting your hands, I took it as like putting your hands on their heart and really speaking in here, which he's been doing. But like she said, they are just humans. Now, what I found interesting in this little clip was also talking about how they grew up and her and Jesus' father deciding who was going to eat. They didn't even have enough for both of them to eat, and how poor they was. And I just thought it was interesting to bring this up. This may fit into something you're going through. So just pay attention here. And it's just a few seconds.
Reminds me of when things were simple.
They weren't always simple. We struggled. Some nights your father and I would have to make a decision which one of us would eat.
I know. It was important to learn the uncertainty of poverty. My followers, they are poor in another sense. Their way of understanding, listening, of faith, destitute, I'm afraid.
That bad?
They ask for earthly things. Positions of prestige on my right hand and left, in glory. They take offense when I show humility and deference to the powers of this world, instead of, turning the Roman soldiers into pillars of salt.
And, in that reference to the Old Testament, Sodom and Gomorrah, like, you just should strike them down, don't even fool with them. And in the Old Testament, that was kind of, ways of how things were kind of taken care of. But now, thank you, God the Father, for your son, Jesus. That's the difference. He came to bring peace and also to bring war, because it's going to bring peace to your soul. But the wars that you're going to have to fight out here in your flesh are going to be hard. And that's what he's kind of been preparing with them. And to the original point for this was let the uncertainty of poverty, to learn from it. So what do we learn from the uncertainties of poverty? The uncertainties of poverty, of not knowing what the next thing you're going to eat, or not having enough, it can translate to knowing that there is one way, and Christ is that way. And being poor of mouth is different than being poor of the spirit. But we have an opportunity to not be poor of that spirit. And that's the reference that he made in this idea that he's given talking to his mom. They ask for things that they need here right now, but they can't see the end, and they just don't have a lot of faith. And again, I said this in the last one. They've never had to use faith and think of it in that way. Faith for their spirit. Now, if you're going to say, well, faith is, seeing, not seeing, but believing. Well, you have faith every time you go to sleep that you wake up. The things you take for granted of not even thinking about what you're going to eat today, but you just have faith that you're going to have something. It's not something you really dwell on or think about a whole lot. You just do. You have faith when you leave the house that you're not going to get an 18-wheeler head on. You have faith you're not going to step off the back deck and break your neck and be lined up there at Judgment Day next thing you know. People don't see that. And I guess you need to be closer with God for a period of time before you can see things that way. And again, as we started with the maturity levels and where we're at, and when they're marching down the road, Judas is just, and he, admittingly, he's a very immature follower. He's just not sure what's going on. And we all deal with that. So how do we become better at that? Not giving up and knowing that we are human and that we are going to fail. But Christ has gone on to prepare us a better place. Okay. Now we'll set up this next clip, and it's about human feelings and kind of just a mother and son talk of what he's feeling. I mean, he can't really share, let's be honest, he can't really share with the disciples how he really feels, because it may give them a lot of insecurities. They may be really insecure about it. And then they're like, wow, gosh, if he's having trouble with, then gosh, what are we going to do? So let's set up this next clip and we'll get into it. Hang on.
But no one understands this. By no fault of their own. They're simply, I speak the words of my Father in heaven, and the religious leaders call it blasphemy and plot against me. Some people just generally take it the wrong way. My own followers say they agree, but then they act in a way that makes it seem like they've never absorbed a word that I've said.
What will it take for them to understand, son?
It's a bitter answer to a bitter question.
You speak in parables.
I do, at times.
Remember when your father taught you how to cut a dovetail joint? He didn't do it by telling you a story. Put his hands on your hands, wrapped your fingers around the tools, and guided you.
These obey the master's hand. But human hearts, that's another story.
Well, it doesn't hurt to try. Being direct, I mean.
I tried it recently. I told them exactly what was going to happen. It didn't even register. The human desire to avoid difficult news sometimes makes one deaf.
True.
Difficult news sometimes falls on deaf ears. They can't understand what they're doing and what's going on. Christ has tried to tell them, and it seems like, right over their head, so what do you do right here? You shared the news with them. You've even told them how it's going to end, and just through unbelievability and lack of faith. I know we keep going back to that word faith. And we end it with this, though. Bitter. There's just a bitter answer to a bitter question. So if you've done everything, how can you make them believe? How can these people see what I'm doing is just not another story that they're going to write in a book that they've studied in their schools all their lives as kids? Jesus studied too. I'm going to have to die. From the end of the last episode of the olive oil being mashed out, running down the rocks to fill the pots, Christ's blood shed sealed it all. The final sacrifice. That is where it all fits in. But it's bitter. And they don't even know yet. Man, I can't wait to see the next show. I think it comes out, when I see it, Thursday night. I think Thursday's will be episode 6. So look for a reaction. Maybe I'll try to do something Friday or Saturday, maybe a day or two after. I like to watch it, let it soak in, think about it, and I'll watch it again. Because I see things when I'm watching it, have feelings about certain things that are being said. And I look forward to seeing you guys back next time. So great show, man. I really enjoyed going through all these topics, and I hope you got something out of it, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you. Leave me a thumbs up on the video. I'd appreciate it. If you made it to the end, you're a true supporter of the page, the Big Matt Podcast. Another big story in the books. Come back next time and we'll do this again, okay? Click on this video. Okay? Thank you.